Batman is famously prepared for anything. His rogues gallery is among the most dangerous, diverse, and unpredictable in all of fiction. But while his enemies come at him with different stratosphere, brute force Batman almost always finds a way to win. What makes him so effective isn't superhuman power, but his careful study of each villain, his deep understanding of their psychology, and the individualized strategies he uses to counter them. Let's begin with the Joker, Batman's most notorious adversary. The Joker is chaos incarnate, a villain who changes his approach constantly and has no discernible pattern. Batman knows a physical confrontation alone will not stop the Joker, nor does logic alone dissolve his plans. The very unpredictability is the weapon. Over the years, Batman's approach has been to refuse the psychological games Joker attempts to play by separating himself emotionally, not allowing Joker's provocations to cloud his judgment. Batman turns the focus away from Joker-esque orchestrated theatrics and back to practical detective work, tracking patterns within the randomness, uncovering hidden accomplices, and intercepting the Joker's supplies. Batman also prepares antidotes for Joker venom and protects those closest to him, denying the Joker easy leverage. In the end, Batman's strategy is a blend of emotional detachment and relentless counter-preparation, a counterbalance to chaos itself. With Two-Face, Batman faces a man divided between order and disorder. Harvey Dent relies on his coin to guide each critical decision, creating unpredictability, but also a hidden order. Batman exploits this. In past encounters, he's provided Two-Face with misleading or rigged coins, forcing Harvey into an emotional crisis or a moment of indecision. But more often, Batman appeals to the Harvey Dent that remains, using reason, memories, or shared history to create hesitation. The key is recognizing that Dent is not truly evil, by reminding him of his better nature or by exploiting the dual logic Two-Face uses. Batman destabilizes his plans from within. Facing the Riddler presents different challenges. The Riddler thrives on puzzles and intellectual superiority, sending riddles that taunt Batman's intellect and pride. But Batman refuses to let ego dictate the battle. Instead, he leans on humility and resources, consulting allies in the Bat family or using Gotham's databases to collect clues. Batman knows that Edward Nygma craves acknowledgement. He wants Batman to play the game, but by solving puzzles as efficiently as possible and by anticipating the Riddler's next moves, Batman deprives him of satisfaction. Surveillance, digital forensics, and counterhacking become the tools of choice. These methods allow Batman to undercut the spectacle and bring down Nygma without giving him the admiration he seeks. Few villains challenge Batman physically the way Bane does. Bane is as brilliant as he is strong, and famously broke the Bat once before. After that defeat, Batman rebuilt his strategy, recognizing that he could not rely on strength alone. He learned to predict Bane's moves by watching for the use of venom, Bane's strength-enhancing drug, and disrupting his supply chain. Batman leverages misdirection and timing, drawing Bane into unfamiliar territory or exhausting him before direct confrontation. If Bane is mentally fatigued or uncertain, he becomes less effective, and Batman exploits these rare moments with precision. Scarecrow, the master of fear, weaponizes psychology directly. Batman, however, is intimately familiar with fear, having trained his mind to resist toxins and illusions. In encounters with the Scarecrow, Batman's strategy starts with pharmacological preparation, toxins, antidotes, and breathing apparatus. But beyond that, Batman faces his own fears head-on, turning Scarecrow's greatest weapon into a training tool. By conquering his own nightmares, he not only develops immunity, but models resistance for others, robbing Scarecrow's feared tactics of much of their power. With Mr. Freeze, the threat is technological and environmental. Freeze depends on his suit, his freeze weaponry, and the necessity of sub-zero conditions. For Batman, the solution is technological countermeasure. Insulated thermite, tools to thaw ice instantly, and even manipulating the environment to force Freeze into less advantageous. Whenever possible, Batman also targets Victor's emotional vulnerabilities, especially the fate of Nora Fries, sometimes using negotiation rather than brute force to bring about a resolution. Finally, When facing the Penguin, Batman encounters an enemy who relies more on organization and influence than direct violence. Cobblepot surrounds himself with henchmen, legal fronts, and business dealings. For these encounters, Batman's strategies become more investigative. Surveillance, infiltration, and public exposure of criminal activity. By backing Penguin into legal corners and using evidence to disrupt his social standing, Batman dismantles an empire that could not be toppled by fists alone. Batman tailors his response to each enemy, identifying not just what they can do, but what they must do, and exploiting their habits, patterns, and desires. He turns his detective skills from the scene of the crime to the criminal's mind, finding a counterpoint for every threat. For Batman, victory is not about overpowering an enemy. It is, above all else, about understanding them, because only through understanding can he ensure that they never win, and Gotham remains safe for another night.